Howdy, Larkin Rose here, and I'm making this video to introduce you to my new dream studio, which isn't actually new. It's awesome, but it's not actually new. A bunch of it is. This beast, by far the most expensive, like this costs about 3 times as much as all of the rest of it combined. The Korg Kronos we got several years ago and used it to do a performance down in Mexico. We shipped it down there and back, which was terrifying given the fact that it's several $1,000s, but it made it back alive. There are 2 reasons I'm making this video. One is just to show off my studio because I think it's kind of cool and some of you might be interested in that. More importantly, as you've probably heard, we're making a live-action full-length feature film out of the Jones Plantation. And as I've mentioned, my roles in it are writing the screenplay, which is well underway, and doing the music for it. And it occurred to me that a lot of you have no reason to know that I actually know anything about music and don't know that I've been writing and orchestrating stuff for 40 stinking years. So it occurred to me that some people might think, why is he doing the music? Is it kind of going to suck? Is he just doing it for the fun of it and it won't really be that good and you should really get somebody who knows what he's doing and can actually make it sound good? So I thought I'd, give this demo to A, show off the studio, and B, show that, yeah, I really can make a soundtrack that is convincing. Now, what you will hear today is not a convincing soundtrack. It's something I threw together in a couple days to basically demonstrate what the thing can do. It's a very simplified version of it, but it's still fun and hopefully will still give you a bit of a clue in how the beast works, and some of you might even be interested in the guts of it. So, we have the Korg Kronos, which is driving a Mac Mini brain down there underneath. This has a bajillion sounds in it, and it has effects, reverb and EQing and a million other things. So this has its own sounds, but I'm running through a program called Reaper in the Mac. That's a music program. Those of you who've ever done music will recognize this. Like, this is how pretty much all of the DAWs work, digital audio workstation, where you have a stack of a gazillion instruments on different tracks and they go along and they all play at once. And you can record one part and add another part and stuff. So I can put, and it can be a whole lot more tracks than this, but this is something I just threw together. So for example, this, first track is a grand piano, which I don't actually use in that part, but. And when they make the actual sounds in these, they record it from real instruments. It's not synthesizers. Once upon a time, if sound came out of a thing like this, it mostly went zzz, 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 and was annoying as crap. Now they're actually samplers that record the real instruments. For example, to make their grand piano, they have several grand pianos in this thing by itself. To make the grand piano, they go to a freaking concert hall and record a massive grand piano, one note at a time with a bunch of different velocities on every single note. And they do that with everything. So one thing in soundtracks, which is obviously important, is strings, and the Kronos has some fun string settings. There are limitations on what a normal keyboard, like this, well, this is kind of beyond normal, but there are limitations on what they can do. They're good for a bunch of things. They're really damn good for pianos. Also, we have happy little woodwinds. Here's a flute. I'll combine it with some reeds. So they're good for things like that. However, when it comes to a lot of real instruments, you can't get the real expression out of a normal keyboard because, for example, on a cello, you can start a note playing softly and then play it louder and then play it and change it while the note's going on, which if you're just playing a key on a keyboard, doesn't really work. So everything below this is not the stuff up here is feeding the sounds in the Kronos. Everything below is feeding sounds in plugins inside the Mac Mini from a company called East West that do whole freaking orchestras, and they get an actual orchestra in an actual orchestra hall and record, you know, professional musicians playing the instruments that they're really damn good at in this orchestra hall, like one stinking note at a time. So the sound banks of these things are just piles and piles of gigabytes because they're actually recordings. And instead of just, okay, we recorded a violin playing middle C, it's, we're going to record a violin playing middle C this way and on this fret and with this accentuation in a gazillion different ways to make it sound way more realistic. Now, it does take some getting used to actually playing something like that to be able to get used to the expression, which I've only recently started doing, because instead of just, well, you hit the note harder and the thing is louder, you have volume control and expression control to make it do those things. And so it makes it so you can do way more realistic stuff. Same thing with violins.
So I guess for those of you not totally, or who are totally outside of the world of music being composed this way, he just means that everything in the color range here that's done by East West isn't a computer, a digital synthesizer fake of that instrument, which is thanks to digital technology. Now you can mimic things, and unfortunately, when people say that has a synthy sound or a synthesizer sound or a fake sound, they mean they can tell that all of the instruments were even digitally, you know, created, and they're a mimic of the real thing. And East West is a plugin that's all sounds recorded from the real thing, so you get all that nuance and variation in tone and stuff. Yeah,
well, actually, both of these are real sounds, but this
both of these,
East West does so many different layers of nuances that it can do way more expression. For example, here's something you can't freaking do on a regular keyboard when it comes to French horns, which are awesome. Zippity-doo-dah. You can't fade in and out and do the thing the French horn can do that you can manually do, but normally on a keyboard you just can't freaking do that. So it takes some getting used to being able to play that thing. Now, when you record a part in Reaper, you can also go back and change all of that. You can change the volume and the expression and where each note hits and how hard you hit the note and everything about it, so you can get the mix perfect, which is something you just kind of can't do with a real orchestra. It's like, all right, everybody, try not to screw up. And, you know, you can get pretty freaking cool. You know, that there's kind of nothing that really matches a real orchestra, but I kind of prefer this because I can make sure every performer hits the exact note exactly when and exactly how hard and loud that I want them to. But one of the cool things in this, one of the coolest things in East West is their choirs, where they literally record an actual choir singing a bunch of different vowel sounds at a bunch of different levels. And when I put it together, it's way more realistic than I've ever heard any keyboard be before. So I will do a brief demonstration of their choirs. Don't know how much I'm going to be using them for the actual soundtrack, but just showing them off because they're fun. Zippity-doo-dah. So, and then there's fun drums. including massive orchestral hits. You don't really get the full impact coming through this dumb little microphone. Again, don't know how much I'm going to need them in the, the score, but I have them, and I have a billion other things that aren't even here. Now, I'm going to play this thing that I threw together. Instead of you hearing it out of these speakers and into that dumb little microphone, this one I'm actually going to render and add to the tape so you can hear the real version of what it sounds like. But again, this is rough. I would be putting way more time into it and nitpicking every detail, but this is just so you have some idea of what this thing can do. Yeehaw. Zippity-doo-dah. So ain't that fun? Again, this is just a fun little thing I threw together just to demonstrate what it can actually do. And again, my roles in the making of the Jones Plantation are the screenplay, which comes very first. You can't exactly make a movie before you have a script. And the music, which comes at the very end after the whole thing is shot and edited and put together and you know the exact timing and sequence of everything, then you stick the music on. So in between, that's being done by lots of other people who know what they're doing. I'm not directing, I'm not running a camera, I'm not acting in it, I have pretty much nothing to do with any of that. I may sit around on the set and suggest dumb little things here and there, but people who actually know what they're doing are going to be doing that, and in between I can mostly be working on the mirror. And so I work on the script ahead of time, then they make a whole stinking movie, which takes like a year, and then I'll be doing the music, and that'll be fun, and I will make it a actually real soundtrack for an actually real movie that will existentially traumatize a whole lot of people, but in a good way. So just thought I'd show off that beast for the fun of it, and to assuage any fears anyone might have had about, oh, is he going to do the soundtrack? Does he actually know what he's doing? Yeah, I've been doing it for 40 years, so I kind of know what I'm doing.
There's like a lot of weirdly musically talented Liberty people in the movement who are, their primary focus is Liberty, and then we don't, it seems like we don't know that each other all have these musical talents. Then we get together and we find out, oh, a bunch of us are actually, like, music is our #1 love, but we're over here focused on this because that's kind of a bigger problem and it takes away from our art. But we really ideally actually want to be doing this. He's a musician first and a composer first, behind the scenes, and then what you guys see is the Liberty stuff. But
which reminds me, we're going to be doing our music using this same beast, but with a rather different sound. And no doubt some of that will come out before the movie's done, because it doesn't take us a year to do a song, including a thing you wrote, which will be the first one.
We've already started co-writing music, but we haven't had enough time to focus on just doing that and making that, because you have to put a lot of, invest time and effort into getting produced stuff and make your own videos and do all that and launch to even start to see income from music work. So we have to do things to make money other ways.
Yeah. And I think I want to be a control freak and not only finish the song, but finish the video before anybody's allowed to hear it. So that will be still months off. But
you just release it all at once on YouTube, Spotify,
to get the full effect. But that'll also be a fun way to show off what this beast can do and what this beast can do. Just gonna refer to you as a beast.
Rude. He's so rude.
I'm so super rude. So yeehaw. So that's about that. And now I'm gonna get back to work on the script and a million other things. Zippity-doo-dah.
Bye, guys.
See ya.